See, Mike Rossi says you got it. Nope. You go back to Mike, got some other.
Who sent
I got some
a
info.
message out tonight about Mike's meeting? Mike,
But
that he wasn't gonna be here?
I got a text. See, Mike Rossi,
He
you got
didn't
it.
get it.
I got them. I was text, I got some other.
Who sent?
Yeah, you get a text either.
Message.
Oh, there it is right there. Saying you can't get it. Yeah, now.
That he wasn't gonna be there?
I got. Yeah, okay, got it.
He got it, give him
I
mine.
got them. Text, I got some other.
Who sent?
Yeah, you get a text either.
Message.
Oh, there it is right there. Saying you can't get it. Yeah, now.
That he wasn't gonna be there?
I got. Yeah, okay, got it.
He got it, give him
I
mine.
got them. Text, I got some
Yeah,
other.
who sent?
Yeah, you get a text.
What the hell?
Oh, there it is right there. Chris, how do I get down this thing in the blue? Yeah, okay, got it.
He got it, give him
I
mine.
got them. Text, I got some
Yeah,
other.
bring him center.
Yeah, you get a text.
What the hell?
Oh, there it is right there.
You're
Yeah,
worse than I am.
I know. Yeah, okay, got it.
I'm bad. He got
I
it.
took more to that program.
Bring him center.
Yeah, you get a text.
What the hell?
There it is right there.
I just got one from Mike.
Yeah, okay, got it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Bring him center.
Yeah, you get it.
Let's get going.
You okay?
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town Board Agenda Meeting, August 29th, 2022. Please rise and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America. Taken one nation, under God. With liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Hanlon,
Here.
Councilman Lewandowski,
Here.
Councilman Niles,
Here.
Councilman Fazio,
Here and in Lake Luzerne.
okay, and Supervisor Molino.
Here. All right, the first thing on our agenda, we're going to hear from Barbara Mitchell, Senior Center Director, about a dishwasher. You all had
I am just bringing up three quotes that I have. for the dishwasher that we would like, we have one right now that we would like to replace. It was the initial dishwasher that the senior center was built. 13 years old, Electrolux. A year ago, we addressed it, we looked at it, we tried putting it on speed, it still active. And we had plans for 2 years before COVID, and he said that it's an obsolete dishwasher, and it should look to replace it. So I'm back again with the three quotes, hoping that we would be able to replace it this year.
Personally, I don't have any problem with it. Do you know if those ones that you presented will fit?
Yes. I've already done
Did
all
the-
of that, looked at everything. The only thing that is not in this quote would be the installation. We're hoping that that's something that Rick would be able to address. Our buildings and grounds.
And I think one of them did not include delivery, if I remember. right.
Correct. They don't, it doesn't include.
Which one do you lean towards?
I would lean towards the Saratoga Hobart one. That's the first one that we had looked at last year. And it has, the reason I'm saying that, it's local. And when speaking with the gentleman that gave us this quote, he said there are 10 to 15 techs in our area that would be able to work on it. Right now, when we have someone come in, as everything right now, the parts are slow to get, but it was really slow to get them. And the senior center is out open now 3 days a week. Steve cooking still Tuesday and Thursday, but to do dishes twice, wash them, spray them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even,
Paul was Hobart's still a good brand and
That's
one of,
top of the line.
back when I was in business, there was,
Hobart's a very well-known name.
yeah.
It has
The
a better-
service Setup too.
it has a better warranty than the other two.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with a Hobart at all.
What do
I'm
we
just
need to
trying
do?
Figure out,
Where are we at? What do we need to do?
We can't make a we can't pass a resolution right now,
Yeah.
but we can agree to move it to the meeting in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, the attorney will make up the resolution.
Yeah, I just need a copy of the quotes.
They're gonna work.
In next week, all of that will come. Be in
One
place.
question,
Sure.
how many loads do you normally go through in a day
Well,
on
Uh,
average?
on average, so,
I know you've got people at 80-some people at times,
yeah.
but I'm talking.
So we're
average
having-
day.
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, our average for people coming in to eat are 30. Yep, for lunch. So then you have all the dishes that go with that. So we're talking,
2 loads, 3
oh,
loads?
no, oh my goodness, no, we're talking 6 to 10. And then if we're doing, because you're talking pots and pans, we're rinsing.
I say we make a resolution, go to paper plates and silverware.
Well, so we don't buy the paper plates and silverware.
I wonder if electrical specs are the same.
Looking at this, it pretty much is the same. It's a 220 machine, which
So we'll have to put in a bigger service. one.
a household is 110.
Yeah, it's got a 4 or 5 kW heater in it or something.
Some of them have a booster heater in it, correct?
Yeah.
And that's for your sanitation or, yeah. What do you call it? Sterilization,
Yeah, 180.
180 degrees, right?
So we don't have to make a motion or anything, do we?
We'll just have to agree that we're gonna let the attorney make up a resolution for the
Yeah.
meeting in 2 weeks. That's what we'll vote on.
Fine with me.
All others feel. Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I agree. Thank you, Bob.
Don't forget Mike's online here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, you all right?
Yep.
with that?
Absolutely. That
Okay.
one didn't last as long as we hoped, did it, Barb?
No, it did not.
We got another year or so out of it though, right?
We did, but it's really starting to show its age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one other thing I wanted to address. Jean and I have been meeting with the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, because our senior center, we had gotten to build it, just went blank here. That were
We
disaster
got a letter
center.
for evaluation of the town hall, which I believe the girls sent in.
No,
That's
this
something
is
different.
totally different
That
what
was
I'm
originally-
talking about.
Different than
That's
that.
not-
Totally different.
That's-
So that is to the cooling station.
Yeah,
We're actually talking about having the Red Cross be our disaster center. So if we did have a disaster in our town, be it flood, water, freezing, everything like that, anything like that, trees down, no electricity, they actually come into the building. They look after everything. That isn't like Barb staying here for, overnight because, Miss Sally is not able to, doesn't have electricity. They come in, they feed the folk that are here. We can house 30 people at the senior center. We are designated a disaster center, but until we take the step and actually have the Red Cross come and talk with you folk and you adopt that, they're not going to be able to come in and do anything. So they feed the folk if there was a disaster. They bring in all the bedding. We don't do anything. They collect all the data. So there, if someone had their home when we had an ice storm, that they weren't able to have, they didn't have any food. Well, it's not our responsibility to make sure that they have housing, but the Red Cross, if it's 15 people or less, will make sure that they have housing, be it in a motel or something. It's not up to the town to look after that. And the gentleman has been here and looked at everything. I'm just asking for you, for you to set a date where he could come and talk.
yeah,
to
he
you.
just wants to make sure that we're mostly interested into, he doesn't want to come down, give us all the information. We say, no, we don't want to do that. So as long as we're willing to have him down, it's all we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
Is there any reason not to
Yeah,
do it?
There's no
No.
reason not to.
I
Oh.
just think with the weather changes
Yes.
that we're having, it would make sense.
more
to
important
move
in the
towards
winter.
that.
Oh, nobody's disagreeing. Maybe you can drag them in here for the next meeting.
All right, well, he wanted to know first, basically, if the board would be okay to have him come in.
What do you think, Mike?
I think it's an amazing idea. I know just from the fire service, whenever there's a family that's displaced or, heavily damaged, they're the first ones that are there to help. I think they're fantastic. I'm behind it 1,000%.
Okay, so
All
then
right.
I'll,
I
So-
Hey,
agree.
Mike,
Set
do you
that.
know off the top of your head if the fire department is still set up for the Red Cross?
I know we have communication with them, Paul. To what extent we're set up with them, I don't really understand. But I know when we call them immediately when there's a family that there's a structure fire and it's inhabitable, and they bring down. We had one this past winter when it was 30 below one night, and they were right there with blankets and coats and a hotel room, as Barb alluded to, and they do an amazing job, and it's unrewarded. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob.
okay,
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
we'll put that on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, speaking. All right.
Is she going to contact him?
Yeah, Barb's gonna take care of that. All right, Lori?
Yes. At the June meeting, you passed a resolution for the standard workday for certain elected officials. And we submitted it to New York State Retirement, and they rejected it because we also had the assessor on there who does not need to be on there. So we need a new resolution to be able to resubmit the form that we need to submit and start the 30-day posting that we have to do and all that. So the resolution is pretty simple. It's the same as it was the last time, and I can read it for you. Resolution to establish a standard workday and reporting requirement for elected and appointed officials. Resolved that the town of Lake Luzerne hereby establishes the following standard workdays for these titles and will report officials to the New York State and local retirement system based on their record of activity. And that's why it got rejected, because the assessor actually punches a time clock. She does not have to submit a record of activity. So we have to redo it. And so the elected officials would be Ronnie Duell, Highway Superintendent. The term is January 1 of 2022 to December 31 of 2025. Standard workday is 8 hours and pay frequency is biweekly. Cynthia Sherwood, Town Clerk. Current term is January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2025. Standard workday 7, paid biweekly. Eugene Merlino, Town Supervisor, current term, January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2023, and pay frequency is biweekly. So resolved that the town clerk shall post said resolution as required by New York State law. I just need.
No problem.
It's time sensitive, so is that something we can do tonight, because it's already been done once?
Attorney Crowe, is there any reason we can't do that?
Right, you can move it tonight, and that was the corrected one that you read
Yes.
without,
Yes.
Correction.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got a motion.
A second.
We got a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don't
Mike?
forget Mike.
Opposed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're gonna have a presentation by AJ Brooks. We've been working with this company, these gentlemen for 2 months now.
Make sure that mic was close to you, AJ.
Yeah.
Thank you, Supervisor Merlino and the town board for seeing us this evening. Just want to go over a quick summary of the 2 water districts that the town has and some information pertaining to the lead service lines that you may have, as well as some grant opportunities that we're pursuing. So the lead and copper lead was banned in the United States in 1986. And as a result of the problems that resulted in Flint, Michigan, the US Congress created a lead and copper rule, which has put municipalities on notice to create a lead service inventory by October 2024. And this is all municipalities that have a water service. And as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed this past year, they are providing grant funding for not only the inventory, but as well as replacement of lead services. If it's known that there's a specific number of lead services and the exact location of where those are. So we've started this project and we're helping the town apply for grant funding for the lead service inventory. And what we've found so far is that the Hudson Grove Water District, there's 115 service connections in the district. Of those, 99 connections were constructed before 1986. For the Lake Luzerne Water District, there's 885 water service connections. And of those, 755 connections were built before 1986. So that does not mean that you have 854 lead service connections. It just means that there's a possibility that of those 854 service connections built prior to 1986, we would have to investigate further to determine if those were in fact lead service or qualified to be replaced as galvanized service connections. So that's a total of, between the two districts, 1,000 service connections that were are in the system, and 854 that we would have to further investigate. Now, as I mentioned, there is grant funding available for lead service inventory as well as replacement if there is identified lead service or galvanized replacement if it's eligible. So I have a national expert with me that goes into the grant funding. He's going to go a little bit further into what is available for the town to apply for.
How do you determine if a connection is lead
So there's a couple of ways that we are looking into.
other than digging them up?
Exactly. We're trying to avoid that. In the home, you can actually do a scratch test where the line comes into the house
Yeah.
and you can determine if that is a lead, galvanized, or copper connection. If what we've ascertained from talking with Ron Duell and is that the majority of what they're seeing is that the lead gooseneck is the only portion of the service connection that is lead. Under the lead and copper rule, that does not qualify as a lead service connection, which means you would not have to replace that connection. It's grandfathered in, you don't have to worry about that as of right now. That being said, they are updating the lead and copper rule, so that does not mean in the future that those goosenecks would cause to be replaced. But there is funding out there for the lead goosenecks. You're going to have to excavate down and find out if there's they exist as lead goosenecks or if it's galvanized. That's the only way. If from the main to the curb stop, that's the only way you're going to really find out.
Where's the lead gooseneck?
So it goes from the main to the curb stop.
The scratch test, is that done from inside the house?
Correct.
And it's done close to the house typically?
Yeah.
In other words, you can't insert something out to scratch out by the street.
No, there's some predictive modeling that we've used in other municipalities in the US to narrow down the possibilities of what could be lead services that we'll be looking into as the inventory, if the inventory moves forward.
How are the actual results of the scratch test? What's the percentage of positive or negative?
That really depends on what was constructed. It's 100%. You can either tell if it's lead, galvanized, or copper from a scratch test. There's between the color of the pipe, if it's magnetic, there's ways of determining without a doubt whether it's lead, copper, or
So the test is real accurate.
yes.
So if a house coming from the street in is copper, you're saying that's got to go?
No, copper is fine.
Copper is fine.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
just the lead.
Correct. And if a service line was galvanized with lead either at the main, that would also have to go.
You're talking to remediate this would involve digging on the street level.
Correct.
So the not and the person's.
Well,
house.
if the funding available goes from the main right through to the water meter. in the house. It's the full replacement is what the grant funding is available for.
And there's grant available for this, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay,
But the first step is creating that inventory to identify the exact number of lead service connections and their locations.
what kind of price tag are we looking
We are putting together a report with that cost estimate now.
at?
I can't give you a dollar value right now.
And our last meeting we had, that could be part of the grant, correct?
Correct. That the inventory, there's two separate grant opportunities. The building that lead service inventory, which we're working on. We're putting a engineering report together right now to submit to apply for funding. And then once you have that inventory developed, you can then go after the money for the replacement.
What's the possibility of getting the grants?
Well, that's part of what we're going to talk next with Tim Burns. He will go into how we're trying to position the town to maximize the possibility of getting grant.
Now, from other meetings we've had, I think kind of the gut feeling was eventually, even if it's just a gooseneck, it's gonna have to go.
Yeah, like I
I
mentioned.
mean, I know that's not stamped in concrete right now, but
They are modifying the lead and copper rule, so
Probably
it's
coming down the road.
probably coming down the road.
So we get ahead of the curve. So if we get ahead of the ball now, we won't be doing this twice.
Correct. And the recommendation is,
Only if we've got to blow up the road and everything else.
Yeah. We're in there, we might as well.
If we got to blow that up, but if it's only the pipe from our drop into the house. Okay, you know, if that's got to get changed, we might as well change everything. Like you're saying.
Yeah. We're in there once. No, we're not paving twice and patching and going through the whole rigmarole.
Could you say anything about the cooperation? The people have to cooperate with us.
correct. We would be looking for public assistance in letting either municipal staff into the house to assist with the scratch test or performing the scratch test and providing us with results, either with a photograph or something documenting that it was done.
Can a
There's-
homeowner not accept or bow out of this legally?
I'm not sure if that.
What's the liability of
it's
the
a li-
town if they do?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If they sign a document saying, if we got expenses to them, to the homeowner itself. Okay. Because the way the town has set it up before, if I'm not mistaken, from the curb cock in is the responsibility of the homeowner.
Yeah, but it might not be with
Huh?
it might not be with this.
That's what I'm asking.
so with the grant would cover from the main into the house.
Okay.
This whole thing. Does it call it, with the grant, as far as repair after? You're been in possession of this, could that be a problem where the landowner?
It would
Added on
revert back
expenses?
to, once that service is replaced, it would revert back to from the curb stop to the house. It would be the homeowner's responsibility. And
I-
from,
which is
What are they
the
putting
same as
in?
it is now.
correct,
What type of material are you allowing to put
it
in?
would be copper,
It will
a
be.
copper or a poly, or like PVC.
I didn't know if
tube.
you were going poly with
Could be
a
either.
tracer line on.
Yeah, it would really depend as once the inventory is done, details of the actual service could be developed and
How deep it is.
Do you want to touch base on also the next grant and where we were talking about the other day?
yeah, so we're also trying to position to go after funds that are available next year for the water service, the water mains in the town. And I'm talking with Ron and Logan. Downtown Main Street, Church Street, School Street, in that area, there's the mains are old.
9N West.
Yes. So we're trying to come up with a plan to get you money to replace those water mains. In doing that, if they come across lead surfaces, rather, they would be replaced at the same time as that water main. So again, to your point,
Yeah.
one time in the street be done.
It's a Band-Aid once.
Yeah.
Get in there, get it done. I think it's pretty prudent to do that. My personal view.
I don't think they would allow somebody not to take it.
We all
Because
know that.
if they sell their house the year after, then to somebody else. Now, I don't know the law, I haven't read it or the rules, but it doesn't seem logical.
And it's a health concern, so we want to come and educate the town, have work sessions to educate the community of the importance of this.
Try to minimize that possibility.
Yeah.
Wonder how much teeth that law is gonna have in it.
You
Who
know,
knows?
it's got a lot of
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
All right. You have the,
Yeah, so I'll turn the floor over to Tim Burns unless there's any other questions.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks,
Thank
AJ.
you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tim Burns. I currently work at Arcadis. I've been there about 9 months. Before that, I worked for the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, which is the main funding agency for water and wastewater infrastructure in the state. The main program that they administer is something called the State Revolving Fund. And also in that agency, they've been managing the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant program, which the state has done itself since 2015, put in over $1.2 billion worth of grant money for water and wastewater infrastructure. And then I spent 20 years there. Before that, I worked for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Get-
So. been in
Get
this
close to that
position-
mic, Tim, please.
Sorry,
Get close to the mic.
you bet.
Sorry, the mics are older than all of us.
Got it. All right.
Thank you.
So my background for the last 20 years has been on infrastructure funding, and I ran the wastewater infrastructure fund for the state since 2009. So retired from the state, now working for Arcadis, and with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, this really is a historic moment for an opportunity for municipalities to take advantage of grant funding that they've been talking about having for the longest time, haven't. And to some of the points that have been made by the town board this evening, right? It's like lotto, you got to be in it to win it. The money is there. What will happen down the road if EPA takes a hard line against the state, who will then bring a hard line down against municipalities for goosenecks or other issues? We don't know, but we do know the money is available now. The money may not be available at that time when the winds may blow in the wrong direction. So that's just something to be mindful of. So again, I gave you my background. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about the Infrastructure Act. You may have heard some things about it, but we'll talk about it with this focus on water. Talk about the SRF program, which is where most of the Infrastructure Act money is going to. The financial advantages from it, and then the income survey that we're looking to have the town move towards in order to position itself to get grant money, because as of right now, that's not the case. So we want to put you guys in the right position, and then we'll talk about summary suggestions and then any questions. But if there are questions that come up as I'm going through, please speak up, because this is the beginning of the public education campaign, and having the town board's full support is critical for that to occur. Okay, so it's a fancy name, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It's passed on November 15th, signed by President Biden on November 15th, 2021. It also goes by the name of bipartisan infrastructure law, since there aren't that many bipartisan acts in Congress these days. So I guess they wanted to tout that. Okay, so there's a big pie chart. You can see the little green slice, $55 billion from that 1.2 trillion is for water. Most of it, as you can see, is transportation funding, but it's historic. And just from a perspective standpoint, from 1972 to 1987, when the nation was spending tremendous amount of money building its wastewater infrastructure, it invested $55 billion. So that's the level of investment that we're looking at here. It's a historic number that I've been waiting 30 years of my career to see. Next. So in that, at 43 or about 44 of the $55 billion is going to the state revolving fund to address wastewater, drinking water issues, wastewater issues, and then specific pots for lead service line and for emerging contaminants. And the emerging contaminant that you've probably heard the most of is PFOA, PFOS. You're more familiar with here in New York in Hoosick Falls. But it's ubiquitous. We're finding, they're finding it all over the country. But 11.7 billion for the clean water program, 11.7 for the drinking water program. These are over the next 5 years. $15 billion for lead service line replacement, and then $5 billion for emerging contaminants, with 4 of that 5 in the drinking water program. And it's an equal amount of money over 5 years, and the money's been appropriated. So it's not just, hey, we passed a law and then we'll deal with it in the budget. The money is authorized by Congress. Next. So this is a fancier slide that spells it out year by year. Talks about the clean water on the top and drinking water and the emerging contaminants. Adds up to 43,426 million. For clean and drinking water, it's 49% of the money has to be given away free. Same for lead service line. And then for emerging contaminants, all of it has to be given away free. But in order to get to the free, into the free category, you have to be considered a disadvantaged community. And that's where and at this point in time, the town is close, but not there. And that's where we're going to be getting into in more detail. Next. So in New York, there's $428 million coming into New York State from the bipartisan bill for both clean and drinking water. For drinking water lead service line alone, it's $115 million. Again, 49% of that has to be given away free. So you're looking at about $67.5 million has to be given away free. 73 million for the regular drinking water projects, and you can marry a drinking water loan with the grant money that's available to keep the cost of infrastructure lower. And then emerging contaminants is 30 million. So that amount is coming in. It came in, we're presently in federal fiscal year 2022. It ends on September 30th. So that money has been appropriated. And then on October 1st, we'll enter federal fiscal year 2023. Another 428 million is going to come into New York State with a fresh 115 million for drinking water. So the states have been getting themselves ready to accept these dollars. They had to put out a list of projects. They have to apply for the money. EPA actually hasn't even granted the money yet. They haven't awarded the money through a grant to New York State or any of the other 49 states. So it's very likely the first, slug load of projects going out the door is going to be 2 years worth of money, because they're trying to get those that are ready earlier are going to be in a better position, which is why the town is being proactive in working towards developing that inventory so that we can get you positioned for the funding. Next. So how do you get how do you get classified as economically disadvantaged? Well, back in 2014, there was requirements under a different federal law that asked the SRF program to come up with criteria that included income, unemployment, and population changes. But under the bill, they're using that, plus they want states to consider environmental justice areas as well, or as a means to pull in areas that may not qualify. So again, I talked about the emerging contaminants, the time frame. The upside here is, unlike the Recovery Act, which came out 13 years ago, if you weren't in the right place, right time, that money was going to come and be gone, and you couldn't get ready the next year. This money is now with the state. Once they have a list, they'll have the money, and once they award it to the community, they'll have the time to complete the project, and the money won't expire. So that's great in terms of Congress not looking to take the money back. Although some states may not have enough lead service lines, then they may sacrifice that money, and then it'll be New York has a chance to get even more money. So because sorry, some states built their infrastructure at different times earlier than others. Something that will be a requirement of the funds though, right, where you get the money, there are strings. Build American, Buy American is a new requirement where not just iron, steel has to be manufactured and domestically procured in the United States and manufactured in the United States. It's also manufactured goods and construction materials, including wood and plastic, have to be domestically manufactured in order to qualify for these dollars. And there's going to be some administrative requirements with that in terms of getting certifications from vendors to confirm that where those particular products were manufactured. Okay, here's a little overview of the SRF program. So it's the main funding program for water and wastewater. There's a wastewater fund, which was the first one was created in 1987. It's for wastewater treatment plants, sewers, pump stations, a lot of traditional wastewater infrastructure, but also covers stormwater. Go to the next one, since we're focusing on drinking water. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So it was a well-designed program that when they created under the Safe Drinking Water Act amendments in 1996, they mirrored it, except they were a little smarter where they added a grant component to it. There was no grant component to the Clean Water Program for the longest time. It's for, these programs were built primarily as loan programs. Programs are administered by the states. Treatment plants, distribution main storage, and dams are now eligible if they're for making improvements to existing dams that impound water for public water supplies. And that's only a recent change. Next. To get any of the money, you have to have an engineer report, which AJ was mentioning, is something that Arcadis is working on behalf of the town. You have to do an environmental review, which the town is very familiar with. That review has to be NEPA-like, which means you have to consider federal requirements, not just state, but thankfully for New York, we're having regulations that may be a little more robust than other states. New York's environmental review is very consistent with federal environmental review, so it's not there's not much of a difference. Davis-Bacon, which is federal prevailing wage, again, New York State has its own prevailing wage, and it's oftentimes equal to or higher than federal. So we have not typically seen that to be an issue. I mentioned BABA, which is Build American, Buy American. And then there are state requirements such as minority and women business enterprises. In that planning document, that is a requirement. You have to consider alternatives. The engineer has to sign off that the cost and effectiveness, that the most cost and effective solution is being recommended. And then states also are looking at life cycle costs, green stormwater infrastructure, energy and water efficiency for the purposes of the lead service line. Life cycle cost analysis could be part of that analysis to determine when is it a wise decision on a case by case basis, because we're going to do the inventory. You're going to get it real time, actual houses that you believe, that you've got evidence to prove that there's lead service lines that need to be replaced. And then is what might be the replacement material, what might be the method of replacement.
How much do you have to dig into stormwater?
I'm sorry.
How much do you have to look
In this instance, you don't have to, right? Since so it's not you have to cover all those things. It's not like an environmental review where you have to look at it and say, oh, what's the stormwater impact here? No, it's only if
okay.
you were, if
For the
a
project.
project was directed towards trying to address stormwater,
Gotcha.
then, we'd want that to be part of the engineering report, but the report will be focused on the mission at hand, which is lead service lines here. Next. I already mentioned Buy American, Build American. Waivers were considered, and I'll just say I'm disappointed in EPA because there are earmarks that have gone out, and there are waivers being given for those projects that were awarded earmarks for Build American, Buy American, but EPA is not awarding them currently for the SRF program. So I'm disappointed. Since I'm on the record, I could say other things, but I'm not going to. Next. So some of the advantages of the SRF program, like It's basically a loan program. It's like going to a bank to get a mortgage. And most of the projects that we fund that are funded through the SRF program are funded over 30 years or whatever the period of probable use for the asset is, right? And when you're talking infrastructure, oftentimes it can last more than 30 years, but there's local finance law, which limits how long you can borrow. Next. So the three main programs that we'll see communities take on is the SRF program, WIFIA, which is a loan program that EPA offers, or you might bond on your own as a municipality. And there are advantages, disadvantages to each one. But the thing that has amazed me, it's not so much in New York State, but in other states, is that there's a belief that the SRF program doesn't offer a great interest rate. And it's by statute, it has to be below market rate interest rates. A bank cannot afford to operate at the interest rates the SRF program offers because they would go out of business. So that's one of the advantages. That's the main advantage to the SRF program. But like a Christmas tree, sometimes they hang other ornaments on it that are not related to money. They're related to other matters. Next. So, right, the power of Warren Buffett talked about the most powerful force in the universe is compounding interest, and hopefully you're in an interest-bearing circumstance instead of an interest deficit. But as a $10 million project, if you borrowed at 4%, is not just going to cost you 10 million. It's going to cost you closer to 19 million over 13 years because you got to pay the interest on that debt over that 30-year period. So it's the true cost of your project. You have to look at the principal and the interest to determine, when you balance out your water rates. And interest rates for the SRF program are in New York for drinking water projects are 1/3 of whatever the going rate is. Can you go back one slide? And right now the going rate, the US 30-year yield from Bloomberg was 3.11. So you're looking at about a 2% interest rate in New York for a drinking water project, just on the loan side. We're not talking about the free portion. So, find me a bank that's going to offer you a 2% interest rate. Next. So there's terminology in the SRF program. They call it additional subsidization. That's just an easy way of saying free money, because the way the program was built was a loan program. And the whole idea is the feds give the money to the states. They create like a water and a sewer endowment program, as if you're a college and you're building this program. You got to loan the money out. You're going to get the principal back, and you charge a lower interest rate, and you revolve money so that next year you can make a new loan to a different municipality to build its own a different project. Principal forgiveness is typically the method they offer it. So if you had a $10 million project with $2 million worth of free money, you'd only have to pay $8 million back over your 30 years. And I mentioned about 2014 already. But in New York, as I mentioned, they have since 2014 have been using median household income and family poverty rates to determine eligibility for whose hardship. But communities also have the option to do an income survey if they don't believe that the census data, which is what they're using, 2019 census data, is reflective of the community's wealth. And lastly, there's a new method that the state's going to be proposing that'll include environmental justice areas, but 50% of the project area that's being served has to protect, serve, or benefit that EJ area. The next one. So as I mentioned, you guys are close, but you're not there. To automatically qualify for hardship, you had to be at 80% of the statewide median household income. The state median household income is $68,486, according to the Census Bureau. When they released the 2019 ACS data, your MHI was $59,400. So we're about $5,000 off. If we get to 5,000 below, based on the income survey, you go from that 2% loan to a 0% interest loan, and you open the door to free money.
So just a quick question. Does that include, is that for permanent residents that live here 12 months of the year, or does that also include seasonal residents?
That
That survey.
includes property owners.
Property owners
who
in
are
general.
there. Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Well, if they are water tax, if they're in the water district and they're paying, that is part of the survey that would be done. You have to send a letter out with the survey to all the residents or all the homes that are part of the district. And it's just the residential homes, the residential and the multifamily, but anyone where people are living, not businesses, not
Not a second home.
industry, not, I don't know if they're
Property owners.
if
I
they're a
guess.
property owner,
Then there it is.
then there it is.
Okay.
Yep.
It's probably coming up, guys, but if we send out a survey, we have to get 29% back,
38%.
have to get 38% of the surveys back.
Yeah, so they're not expecting you to, but we've got two districts here, right? So we're gonna have to do
You
two,
got, yeah. Well,
we'll
you
have to
got
do two
SW1 and
different,
SW2.
we'll have to do two different surveys.
So in round numbers, we only need to get a third of the surveys back.
Ron, question for you is, I'm assuming even though we get our water from Corinth, we take care of all the plumbing down there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so again, so the path to the lower interest loans and the free money is this income survey. Can you go to the next slide? Because when we look, DEC put out an environmental justice map. Anywhere where you see the purple around the state is an identified area. You highlight in Lake Luzerne, you don't see any shade. So the only shade you see, which you can't really see because it's Hudson Falls and Glens Falls was the area that was shaded. And this is an interactive map. If you went to that to the URL that's on the bottom of that slide, that would bring you right to that map. And it's a Google map that you can zoom in and out of. Next. So I've kind of gone high pitch, 30,000 foot, little background. But the whole idea here is to explain where the money is, what the rules are, and then, right? Because anything in life is playing a game, right? What's the game? What are the rules? How do I qualify? And at this point, the town is not, but you're not far off. And there is a path to that plan, and that's through the income survey. Next, so here we are. So the purpose is develop because census data has an error rate, sometimes 20-30%. Communities have successfully conducted income surveys that allow them to present that information to the state in order to have them accept an alternate median household income that would be below that key number, that $54,000 number, in order to qualify for hardship. And you qualify for hardship, you're in it for 5 years. 5 years from when the survey has been approved, which would then take you through not just the lead service line project, but the other projects that AJ had mentioned about traditional drinking water infrastructure that the town is considering.
So the census has all come from the Census Bureau. as well.
You got it. It's a federal
How we
agency.
generate.
That's right. So they do something called, right? There used to be a decennial census. There still is. That's what changes representation in Congress, right? New York lost a congressional district as a result of that. But they also used to do a decennial income and other data. And they realized that waiting 10 years to do that data presented a lot of problems. It was a massive workload. And then there was an error rate. And then you'd have to wait 10 years to make any improvements to it. In 2005, the Census Bureau began doing an annual census for certain data points, including median household income. But they didn't do a full sampling. They did a 1/5 sampling, so 20%. So when you do it over 5 years, you now have the equivalent. You've touched the same number of data points that you would have done over a decennial. And then they just update it every year. So every year they keep putting out another 5-year look at what median household income is. And that's what the state is using, because the belief is that it's more reflective of current circumstances, because median household income in 2010 would have been much different than it was in 2020. And if you had to wait that many years to update it, that doesn't, you may not have that much time to wait to do your infrastructure project.
So what you're saying is actually we could go out and canvass new information.
Correct. That's what the purpose of the income survey is. But there's a method to it, and we're gonna get to that. So survey, typically, right, if you don't put a deadline on things and people don't, they're gonna take it, here's my mail, I'll put it over on the side, they don't look at it again and they might lose it. So there has to be a plan, a public outreach plan, not just along with a public education plan to explain why it is that we should have these, have the residents' attention. What's the goal? And what's the, where's the outcome that we want the town to be at? Because we're asking residents for information, not tax returns, but they have to disclose their income, which there are people that find that that's not something that they want the government to know about, even though they have to submit that information on an annual basis to the IRS and New York State.
But
But
that's where the government's pulling their information.
that's where Census Bureau is pulling their information from, but that doesn't always
So quick,
mean.
quick question just came to my mind right now is this, the survey is only given to people on water district lines or people who have wells also? I have a
No.
well.
If you're not part of the water district, then you would not be getting
Okay.
the right, because the jurisdictional lines for the town of Lake Luzerne don't perfectly line up with the jurisdictional lines within each of the two water districts.
Okay, I was just.
So this is what we're wondering, because our water district stops just up the road a little ways. What's that, about a mile up the road?
That's there.
Huh?
That's Harrison.
Yeah,
Campground.
okay. And of course, we only go to the bridge heading for Hadley that way. Everybody else is pretty much on well water except for East River Drive.
And those people that are on well are not paying the taxes
But I know there's people
associated
down
with the
in
water
that-
district.
There's people down in that district that are on wells, and the water runs right out in front of their house.
And they're paying taxes, I believe, right?
How's that
If they're
work?
in a water district, that does not, they have to pay for having the water line in front of their house, so I think they have to pay any capital costs associated with the infrastructure, but they wouldn't pay any O&M costs, is what I typically see, how water districts bill, but please correct me.
Like Hudson Grove, there's a tax on the district.
Right,
And then whoever's hooked up to the system also gets a water bill annually.
okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was, because there is people down there that
That
are not- well, we just had a-
They're in the district.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they would count because they're a taxpayer. Again, only residents, so no businesses, no industry, single family, multifamily structures. It's owner occupied or long-term, so you don't have to just be an owner if you're a renter of.
I have a
sorry.
question on that. We've all been talking recently here about short-term rentals, and a lot of the short-term rentals are single-family dwellings, but the ownership of that property is under an LLC. So how would you get that income if they are in the water district?
I don't know, how short is the short-term rental?
Less than 30 days.
Wow.
And these short-term rentals, on some of them are charging anywhere from $400 to $700 a night.
But is that more like a seasonal rental than a
Year-round.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's skiers, there's
yeah.
snowmobilers.
Then that's not gonna, you wouldn't be looking at the income of those.
But we don't
renters.
even have an inventory of who they are, where they are yet.
You don't have an inventory of the home, of who owns the home.
At the present time, what, we got 34?
That's what the list is, but the list is not accurate.
Well, I'm just saying,
But he's saying the income would be on the
Homeowner.
Homeowner.
Who
The
owns the
homeowner.
property, not who's renting the property out.
but just like you're
Correct.
saying though,
Yeah,
if they
I mean,
got 4 or 5 of them,
But the
But on the-
homeowner in
on
a
the
lot
flip-
of cases
Mhm.
is an LLC
Okay,
for these short-term rentals.
and that LLC could be
Business.
an individual
An
who
individual.
has established the LLC.
or a
Correct.
major corporation.
It could be. And I think that's on a case by case basis, how we're going to address that. If the town chooses to go forward with the income survey.
You'll have to somehow incorporate that question into your survey to figure it out.
Yep.
Okay.
We're only talking $5,000. You know. Over the total district. The person.
Yeah, remember too, it's the median, right? So it's not the average. So if somebody was making $1 million, could skew the average.
Yeah.
But if there's just one person making $1 million, they're just number one on the list. You just go down the list and wherever you end up in the middle, that's where the new median household income would be established. Surveys are mailed. Income is reported, an aggregate income for anybody 15 years or older in that home. Again, we're talking long-term rentals, so not the 30-day, or even less. Some, if people are renting week to week in an Airbnb. There's no names, no addresses on the survey. That each survey would be numbered and mailed. It has to be done by an independent third party so that the town is not the one actually conducting the survey. You're hiring somebody to do the survey on your behalf. Return envelope would be supplied. Again, but we see this as part of a public education campaign with sending information up on the town website so that people can back check it. We'd have the PowerPoint that we have today. I could polish it up if there's any questions on it to be put up on there as an education tool. So the residents can access that with any questions to understand where the funding is coming from. But you must have a minimum response rate depending on the number of residents, the number of connections in your district. I mentioned a 38 number, and that's if there's over 300 connections, which there is in one of the districts, right? The other district is about 100 and something. That response rate would need to be higher. I don't have that matrix in front of me. But it's going to be a little higher than that. Again, we're recommending public information sessions. That includes this evening. And again, all the information, we'd have to make this clear. And sometimes you got to say things at least 3 times to the public before they begin, it starts to penetrate. That it's all going to be maintained confidential, and it will not, the information from the surveys will not be in the hands of the town. It'd be summarized by the entity that conducts the survey, and Arcadis at this point is positioned for that.
Have you, just quickly, have you
Sure.
run into any issues with short-term rentals as far as the owner of that short-term rental living outside town possibly owns 2 or 3 houses in the town? Have you ever run across that, or where's the income in that house? How is that determined by the person who owns it, lives in Long Island?
And
As he owns, is that how that runs? He is the taxpayer, the landowner of it? Because that could skew,
it could,
it could skew
It could.
immensely to the negative
again,
side.
those
for us.
those would be 3 data points on the
Yeah.
list, and if their income is,
That's crazy questions, just things
it's
going.
not,
through my
no,
head.
that's right, we're gonna learn some things along the
Yeah,
way here.
we're gonna.
Yeah,
I
how
already
do
see
they
it already.
define occupants?
I mean, are they receiving mail? Right, I mean, a short-term renter is not gonna be getting mail.
No.
Right, but a
Yeah.
long-term renter would.
And it would be sent to that address in the town. It wouldn't be, or would it be sent to their address that they receive their taxes to?
So how does, I guess that's a question for the town.
Yeah.
Does the town mail, do you, I mean, you have a
Can
taxable
of
property
worms
within the
we're getting
town,
into.
but then they may have an official address that's outside the town?
A lot of do, and, second homeowners. And they don't have mail receptacles at their places here, a lot of them.
We're gonna have to work together then on, getting all the list, getting all the the connections and then determining how best to communicate with those
Will the
people.
list have the mailing address on it too? It had the service and mailing address on it,
Yeah, the list that you'll have,
the hookup list.
Yep.
But are you saying it's gonna go to everybody in the district or just the people on the water service?
it would go to anybody who is any single family or residential property in the district.
Whether they're hooked up to town water or not?
Because if they're not hooked up to town water, they're still part of the district. They're
Right.
still paying
Okay.
taxation.
So, yeah, we'll have to do some work on that.
But
Okay.
that comes up to the same situation. If one person owns 5 Airbnbs, okay, and he files out for each one of those houses, which have got a different address, he could push us up and over, easily up over.
His net worth maybe
The
2.5 million. And how's that get spread out over 3 properties? These are.
Well, the
crazy.
upside, right, again, it's not the average. It's just that person would just end up near the top of the list. But at the same time, you know, if you've got somebody who's a resident who's not tied into the municipal water supply, they're using their own well, the likelihood is that they're a long-term resident.
The assessor might be able to help us with that. We might be able to get something from her. Because I think she can segregate who's in the district and print a list.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that the residents who live here, you know, that's concerned. It's just that their voice is not going to be heard because of the short-term rentals, you know, it's just
Just do it.
going to skew it. And that's kind
You're
of. a
talking
concern.
about, if I'm not mistaken, what is there, 2,800, 2,800?
Thereabouts. Yeah, around
Thereabout,
28 to
right?
30,000 somewhere in there.
And that's total.
Personally.
Due to the fact that we're in a community of,
You're talking to-
oh, excuse me, Mister. Due to the fact that we're in a seasonal community, what would you estimate our seasonal rentals?
It's about half of rentals or homeowners.
Homeowners versus seasonal,
Yeah. It's about half and
50%?
half now.
Is there a reason that the target market couldn't include exclusively full-time residents?
Because the way that the guidance that's developed by the state, it is all taxable residential properties within the taxation district that is pursuing the project. So every water district in a town or a county is billing that has permission from those residents to establish either a water or sewer district or a lighting district or a library district, right? There's about 12 different special improvement districts in New York State. And from that, you know, it becomes a new form of government, right? When you create a
Yeah.
district.
well, you
So-
see what we're saying in regards to the 100% down to a 50% seasonal versus permanent residents. Okay,
I understand.
and.
Could you guys look into that definition of who? You know,
Definition, he's pretty much said it.
I mean,
well,
the guidance is out, this guidance is on New York State EFC's website. I can share that information with you. But they're very explicit as to where what they're looking for.
But just like you know, Jim,
your little point right here says income of all occupants in the household. And for short-term rentals, well, those people are out by my definition.
But they're not, if they're a short-term renter, then they're not the owner of the home,
No, it's not
right?
the owner.
Right.
So the question, but there may be some homes within the district where there are long-term renters, where somebody owns the
Yeah.
home, but somebody else is living
Yeah,
in it
like-
and they're renting it out.
Annual lease or whatever.
That's
Yeah.
right. So that, under that circumstance, it's the person who's made that their residence
Let's
would be the one
I
doing the
just use
survey.
logic, which lots of times doesn't fit with government.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know,
well,
it
this-
never
If
fits.
somebody leases a house for a year, I can see how that particular income would make sense to be part of this survey. But if it's a short-term rental, I can't see how the income of the person that owns 4 or 5 of them should even be relevant to this survey.
But at the same time, you know the difference between people that have got a seasonal home up here and still work in New Jersey, New York City,
Yeah.
things like that, where the average homeowner up here by the census, which we know is incorrect, is saying $50,000. And they're making $125,000 down there, and they're going by their salaries.
But the other thing is we only need 38%. We don't need all 100% of them to return their survey.
Yeah, that's true.
35%.
This is a unique situation. This is
Yeah, no, listen,
unique situation.
this
we're
is,
in with-
this is not something you take up every day, but right, if the census data had shown that the town had a lower median household income, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I assume we can't pick, say we get half of them back. I assume we can't pick which ones we want to use.
cherry picking.
You didn't say that and I didn't hear it. right? So
we're,
even though we are on the record, I believe. So, yeah, no, that's not how it works.
You said in the beginning it didn't count businesses.
That's correct.
Would an LLC be classified as a business?
That is a good question that I don't have the answer to.
well, you answer that one.
In
We got a
term,
number of things to go along with.
yeah, that is because there are some LLCs that are really just individuals. And then there are some LLCs that are corporations.
There's that.
So, the whole rental property,
It's a new issue.
it's overtake. So the simplistic approach is there are holes. I'll
Just-
say that in terms of how things are changing in our.
Just so you know why we're all smiling, we're right in the middle of now of putting together a possible short-term rental legislation in the town.
These are all these questions are coming up now.
Yeah.
Because they're going, does this
No.
really disqualify us even worse? That a problem we don't even have any
All right, you
considered
got,
yet?
just hold on a second, they gotta change the tape.
Sure.
Interesting.
No, this is where our situation, that the figures that we're talking about are fictitious. They're not even close to the average person that lives here
Anybody I know.
365 days a year.
And 66 every 4 years, right?
I beg your pardon?
And 366 every 4 years.
That's right. And my grandmother was born on that day.
Was she?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with you. It's kind of.
So she's only 1/4 of her age, right?
Yes. 1/7. Every, leap year comes around every 7 years. Well, technically, when she died at 99 years old. Okay, she celebrated her, I can't remember the date.
Did she identify as a 20-year-old?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Boy, do I.
But if you actually think about it. How many of the people that are seasonal? That throw these figures all out
Nuts
of
and balls is a lot different, total different.
That's what I'm saying.
They're a different animal altogether.
You go down to Balsa Spa or Schenectady,
That's even more drastic.
you know.
All right, we're back.
We're back. Okay, great. All right. Again, so all the information would be, the survey would go out with a letter explaining it. And then a public information campaign would have to begin. But again, we'll be saying it over and over, how the information will be maintained confidentially and survey conducted by an independent third party. Okay, survey, EFC has it on their website as a standard, but the main question is the fourth one, which just asks for the combined income of all the residents that are 15 or over in that particular household. And the idea with the survey is to not just make the town eligible for funding from the SRF program, but also if there's Office of Community Renewal money or U.S. Department of Agriculture's Office of Rural Development so that you could take this information and pursue other grant opportunities over the next 5 years, because all the funding agencies get together when it comes to water or wastewater infrastructure to make it one-stop shopping. They all agreed on the same income survey form, so that if you were approved in one, you'd be able to be approved in the other programs as well. Next. So summary suggestions. All right, the funding is here. The opportunity, as we talked about, once in 2 generations, really, right? If a generation is every 20 years, this is a once in a 50-year opportunity with money, historic, just getting $1.2 trillion, right? The federal budget is about $3.5 trillion. The defense budget is about $900 billion a year. So this funding is more than the defense budget when you think about infrastructure. It's massive. Half between the regular drinking water SRF and lead, half of it has to be given away. Emerging contaminants, all of it. And then nobody gets 100% grant, just so it's clear. You likely get a 49% grant, but then when you partner that with a loan, that if the town's income survey numbers come back successfully, could be a 0% interest loan. The cost of avoided interest would almost pay for the project, right? We talked about a $10 million project at a 4% interest rate, which I'm not sure when the last time the town went out and bonded for anything that large, but a $10 million project at 4% interest would pay almost $20 million total between principal and interest back, doubling it. So you'd save half that money, and that you could apply that to other infrastructure projects. And again, that would not just apply to the lead project, but any project the town would be looking to pursue over that 5-year period. And then the priority is there. Lead is a priority now. In 5 years, EPA may look at it, and Congress may look at it and say, we already gave the money to the states to fix this problem. Whoever wasn't ready or whoever didn't take it seriously, they're on their own, and they still got to fix their problem without any grant money. So it's opportunity is here, and to take advantage of it, which at this point the town has engaged pretty substantially with Arcadis to get us here tonight to begin to have serious consideration for these actions. And then you got to have your planning completed. You got to have that engineering report. You got to have your environmental review done. You got to know what you're right. That you got to understand the rules of the program, right? We are still experiencing a supply chain problem in the United States, which I am not. I have made this point many times. The EPA, that you could not have come out at a worse time for biomerit. I'm as patriotic as the next person, but this would have been great in 1982 when we were still making things in the United States.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to find things domestically at that point than it is in 2022. So I think that's going to be some of the challenges to this particular program.
Will they carry the funding over? In the respects of can't get the materials?
If you can't get the materials, then the waivers can be considered for the program.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. And some of the things that EPA has not fully thought through, because EPA doesn't build things, right? EPA is a regulator, and the town is building things. Town understands contracting and construction and claims that can be filed against them by contractors. When you tell the contractor you can't do any more work on this job, they're still submitting claims saying, you're tying me up, and here's my bill. Here's my daily bill for not doing any work on your job because you told me not to do work while I'm under contract. So that's a major concern that the states have expressed to EPA, that if supplies are not there for certain pieces of equipment, that you cannot raise the cost of infrastructure investment on the backs of BABO when products are not there, or where there will be significant delays in securing them. Next. That's it.
Hit you with
I
a lot
got
of
it.
questions.
I got a question.
All right.
I know you can't answer it, or they can't answer it.
Okay,
Let's say we don't get any money.
okay.
What do you think it would cost for each home? Is it gonna cost $5,000 or $10,000 or $150?
It's how much rock is in front of these people's
Well,
office.
I mean, you gotta figure it, not enough, because if they're getting water from us now,
Well, as an example, Gene,
you know, the depth is already there. We kind of, I'm not even worried, but I'm just worried. My house is sitting here and the main is over there against that wall.
and you got blacktop or solid concrete.
Well, I wouldn't even add all that in. I just would, what would be the cost for a general, you know?
Average.
For each home.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta have at least an average. When you say difference, if one's 3,000,
Tell you for all. State New York, I know it down. In Hudson Valley, you're talking between $10,000-15,000.
okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Because like most of the houses we're talking about are the older ones, and most of the older ones were built pretty close to the roads.
Yeah.
In our town, I know we have some that are, you know, half a mile in, but those are the newer ones, so they're not gonna probably get even touched, but. So that's what I'm looking for. I mean, you could talk about 10,000 a home, you got 800 homes. The government's putting a big nut on small towns.
Yes, you're already over 10 million at that point.
That's, yeah,
Oh, yeah. At today's prices.
Yes.
and what's prevailing wage up here in this area? 30 what? 40 something?
What trade would it be?
Depends on the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, what trade is
It's all
it?
published by, U.S. Department of Labor
Okay,
publishes those
fine.
rates.
Water,
I don't have. those
Probably
numbers. Do you
excavator.
have those numbers?
excavators more.
I mean, I could
I've
look it
been
up on the
retired for a
internet,
couple of years.
but
A
I don't have that
plumber-
information right now.
Plumber here is probably 60
$90
would benefit, would be my guess. 30 and 30 would be my guess. I think it's more than that. And
Just the guy that fixed the air conditioning.
The HVAC.
I don't do it.
and
I don't do any work here. Talk to my son.
But if, right, the goal here is to get the town in a position
Yeah,
that they could be
ready.
eligible for that 49% free portion.
it's certainly not gonna go down, these prices.
Not going down,
Of course.
and it's not going away. Right, the requirement to remove lead surface line pipes is not going away.
The supply line issue, I don't think would be.
It all
all
comes back to the same thing we've been discussing for a number of period of time since I've been on this board, is trouble with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And now it's come to a head by this instead.
But these laterals would be biggest material needed would be copper pipe. Right?
You get down in the village and I see these two gentlemen down here. Okay, where it's all solid rock. And ledge. They're up in the heights right now. I don't know if you've done it. Have you blasted the area up there yet? Where? Up in the heights to put that water main in?
That's what-
Huh? Soon,
Yeah.
just to get the thing down 4 feet.
Is it only 4 feet or is it deeper than that?
It's on.
There's spots where it's only
Should be
2
fine.
feet and a hit ledge. I'm trying to. Connect two lines, so I don't have a dead end line. So people are getting cloudy water,
Mm,
so.
I just imagine the frost line might be a little deeper here.
Frost depth in this area is 48 inches.
I've seen it 4 feet.
That's what they build to, it's 48-inch frost depth.
What's the next step?
Yeah, so moving forward.
Next step is to develop the public and outreach and information plan, and then to have the survey letter reviewed, approved by the town, along with the survey form. A sample has been provided to the town. I've got extra copies that I printed out here. I can make available to the board for input. Obviously putting it on letterhead, having the town board signing it so that they know that it's something the town's fully supportive of. And if Arcadis has been given the direction to advance that, then we would be doing, the information would be coming back to us to compile. And then ultimately, the outcome would be certified by the town and then submitted to the state for review. Hoping to, if we can get this done in the fall before Thanksgiving, ideally, right, before people start getting their focus elsewhere, then we could have it to the state, ideally approved February, March, and then if again, if the results are there, and then position the town to be classified as that, and then they want to pursue that funding, which would then be what they would be pursuing by next year, because March is the typical date when states begin accepting new projects on their list. And they rank them, score them, and they'll be ranking the lead service line projects separate from the regular drinking water projects.
We get any figures in regards to getting us to the point of a third party going out and doing their legwork, collecting the information and getting it back to these people? What kind of figure we're talking, just that?
We would be the third party,
Yes.
Arcadis.
Okay,
So you're gonna take care of.
so
getting
you're
that-
saying we're gonna do the mailings and everything?
We'll do the, you do the
Arcadis.
mailing.
you do
You sign a letter,
Right.
we'll work, and whatever would work best, but it would be Arcadis sending the email, the letters out to the homeowners, but we'd want to work with the
Obviously,
town.
the median income level, like you said before, you're like, we're not
Yes.
there, but we can get there. So you have a plan of action, forethought in your head. You're kind of like, what do you think, how successful we could be to get there?
Oh,
quote,
well,
unquote.
I've seen many communities. I mean, when you hear that number, 54,000, actually 58,000, is
We're
that
at-
a number that you believe is reflective of the middle person that's living in the town of Lake Luzerne? Because when we originally talked about this, you felt that might be high. So that's the reason why we're having this conversation.
Okay.
Is because if we believe that that's
For
not,
Total household income?
that's what the reported median household income is for the entire town of Lake Luzerne, as reported by the US Census Bureau.
But you said that was based on 2019 figures?
That was based on data that was collected in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, and then averaged.
Okay,
That's reasonable.
Yeah,
and we
but
need to be
19 was the
higher.
last time.
To qualify, you need to be lower
Lower than that.
to be considered economically disadvantaged.
Now you're talking 21 and 2000.
Yeah, but as of right now, the state has not moved that information to be updated. They're still, they put out their draft guidance and they're still holding it at that $54,000 number that you'd have to get to.
Your sample survey says, what's your income household for 2021?
That's right. You have to
This
use
is only
current
asking
data.
for
You
1
can't use
year.
your 2019 data.
Is that what you did?
Oh, you got a copy of that?
Yeah, it's the same thing that was on the screen.
I can hand them out right now if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Your
I
Draft,
think you're gonna have a good chance of getting it lower because we're sending it only
Thank you,
to
sir.
water customers and.
On one side of this is draft letter, and on the other side is the survey.
your draft letter, Tim, says respectfully request that you provide this information by November 30th.
That's right.
The town
Thanks,
has,
Steve.
town.
Yeah, so
envelope.
working backwards, how much time do you allow between the day you mail it and November 30th?
So
We don't have a lot of time, so I'm getting at.
that's right. It's the end of August. If we could get this out by third week in September. And then,
Yeah.
right, because I figured we would do this possibly again or have something along those lines. So when is the next town board meeting? In September?
Well,
September 12th.
So is this a special meeting that's happening today?
Agenda.
Agenda
next
meeting.
month.
The agenda meeting, we have them the last Monday. The regular town board meeting is the second Monday.
Okay.
Now, we can call meetings if we need to.
the town has like envelopes with some type of a logo on it for town of Luzerne. That's something they could provide to you to send the survey out in, so that it's more recognizable that they kind of see.
Yeah, and we can then have the return envelope coming back to Arcadis.
It's a good idea, Logan.
That's
Yeah,
Very
because
good
they're exactly, if they see something from the town, then they'll
You're gonna
they'll
open
like
it.
to be like, oh, it could be something that is important.
I think
And it
we-
also gives the, right, because if Arcadis sent them something, they don't know who Arcadis
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
or why, they might just throw the
It's gonna
mail
go right
out,
in the can.
whereas it's officially from the town.
Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clean envelopes to put labels on.
Well, I know some of like our, when we used to get our pay stub, they used to have the decal on them. They were printed on.
But with a window?
No, but-
We can get either one.
I would, at this point, the safe play is the non-window because you have to have the address then line up perfectly on every letter.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Still
saying. This might be
Still
something
gotta
that
figure
we
out
want to
With this.
Call the printer on tomorrow, because they're having a hard time getting supply. I mean, if they have the supply, we can have the envelopes in the day,
Mhm.
but they can't get supply. We got half of our order a few weeks ago because of supply. Right, so non-window.
I would, yeah, it's easier to
It'd
put
be
a
easier, yeah.
label on that. Right, where time is not our friend. Yeah, and I'll just say there's nothing magical about November 30th. Other than I put that suggested date out there, believing that once we get into the Christmas season,
Everything falls apart.
we all come together, right? And watch Hallmark movies.
So our next meeting is September 12th. I think we should put it on that agenda to.
What is our rough
approve-
cost?
Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think our September meeting, we should, approve or modify and approve the
The
cover
letter.
letter and the form.
And I'm happy to work with whoever you deem appropriate in the town logistically on some of these issues that have been raised at this evening's meeting.
So we'll need a resolution for that, Mike, if everybody's in. Yeah, do that. Yes.
We do that tonight.
What are we talking money wise, just to get this part through for budgeting reasons?
I'm not sure how much we have budgeted for that, AJ.
We already have that in place, right? So 4 or 5 grand.
The total agreement between Marcus and the town is, I believe, $41,000. That includes stationery for starting with the blood service employee, this community outreach.
Okay,
And,
Yeah, it just takes the support of the town board in
That was
order to
approved
authorize that
already.
aspect of the contract.
okay. I was looking for it in my folder. I must have
Um,
pulled it out all this. I don't see a
All
problem.
right, got any other questions, gents? Anybody maybe in the audience? How about anybody on YouTube there? Have any questions you might ask?
And there is a question.
If we've got transmission. Transmission. That ever worked out? That's part of the larger projects that we're trying to position for. For water main replacement.
Anybody out? No?
We know basically the problems we got there from basically 9N down through the town, down to the firehouse or the bridge. Basically, this whole major part of the town. Yeah. You got a 6-inch down. You got hydrants down there.
Chris, is Mike still on? Has Mike got any questions?
I can't hear. I don't know, Jim, who's asking the questions from behind the gentleman that's doing the presentation, but he's totally inaudible. No, I think it's a great thing, but they have to come up to the microphone if you want everybody to hear him online.
Yeah, the question was, what about asbestos?
Oh,
Totally different study.
that doesn't have much to do with the water system, I don't think, but maybe, I don't know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
right, thank
you.
we'll be
very
seeing
much.
you, I guess, a little bit here coming in the future.
I guess we'll see you more.
You might, just might. No, you will. And thank you so much for your time.
All right,
Thanks for coming, guys.
but we gotta be ready next 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, gotta get this ready. Which, this is a form they're already using, so
Yeah. Well, we gotta,
the letter we should
we
get.
gotta make it.
Drive safe, gentlemen.
Yeah,
All right, let's see where we are here. Okay, we're gonna, we already discussed the proposal to make a resolution and the agenda for the regular town board meeting next week or 2 weeks from now. Does anybody else? I have a couple of little things if you want to move forward on that.
I got a couple little things also.
yeah, so do I.
How did you make out, Mike, with the letter from the lawyers of Sherman Avenue Extension?
There's a couple things with Sherman Avenue that I have to discuss with you and attorney-client privilege. There's some
Okay.
litigation going on.
Thank you.
You want to do that tonight? Right after this meeting?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do it tonight or we can do it
Oh,
on the 12th, whichever you
It
prefer.
doesn't take to look to it tonight, so we can get this going.
We won't beat you up too long tonight. Also, in regards to the Airbnb situation, I wanted to ask a question and it goes back to the Warren County laws in regards to documentation or setting up hotel and motel regulations that the county has already put forth. If we adopt that regulation, that is going to give us some substantial not power, but
Teeth,
huh?
teeth?
Yeah, to put forth in regards to our Airbnb situation. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure which county regulations you're talking about. If you're talking about how they,
It's the regulation in regards to where the placement of hotels and motels can be placed in residential hamlet areas and things of this sort.
right,
Zone.
and that's going to be governed
Zoning.
on the
Zoning.
local, yeah, so the
The
local
county has
municipal
already
level.
regulated it. And we could adopt that. You're saying no, Karen?
I don't think
The
so.
county doesn't regulate where hotels, motels go. That's done at the town zoning level.
Hmm.
The county's regulation regulates where they obtain their occupancy tax from,
And sales.
which are the hotels, motels, short-term rentals, and any other entity that qualifies by their local law that the county has put out. But they don't, the county does not regulate where hotels, motels go. That's
Okay.
done at the
So they
local
have no
zoning
law in
level.
effect right now? at the
I
county?
think what you're referring to is that the county is receiving occupancy tax from short-term rentals similarly to what they're receiving from hotels and motels and resorts. So that's how, right now, the county has grouped short-term rentals for the purpose of occupancy tax in with hotels and motels.
Well, can I interrupt you, Paul?
Yeah.
While we're on short-term rentals, Karen, found out that at least one or two of the supposed short-term rentals on the list we got from the county are suspect and incorrect and probably not short-term rentals. So to me, that made me suspect that the list might not be entirely accurate. So I spoke to Mike Swan at the county and asked him about this service called Granicus that finds out about these things. And he is right now not real, doesn't like them anymore for a couple of reasons. One is they just quadrupled the price to renew the service. And another was he's seen some inaccuracies as well. So I did not pursue Granicus to try and get more data stuff, maybe some of these exist, we don't know about it. Mike Swan also told me that he is in the process right now, literally, of putting an RFP together to get a new service to do that work. Which is sniff out Airbnb, short-term rentals, whatever you want to call them, sniff them out that might not be reporting as they're.
Of course, you're talking big money.
Other short thing is, I asked Matt Pallets and John Karimsky to get together with Karen and me tomorrow, just to kind of brainstorm the potential zoning component of Airbnb regulation, just to see how they feel. And maybe they can take it back to their respective boards and see how the boards feel about zoning. And we asked them how they felt about the regulation. Now I just want them to talk about how do they feel about potentially zoning short-term rentals.
Go back to Paul. Anything else from you, Paul?
I know we discussed earlier today in regards to not finding any help again.
Yeah, I was gonna.
You're gonna bring that up and the trucks. Okay,
Trust him, I think it's-
that's it. I'm good. Thank you.
Henry,
Well, we have an application for a driver, Emerson Walker. I believe I know this man. It was on my desk here. I don't know if we how we move forward on that as far as interviewing him.
all right, if you read all of it, this
This just came in today.
I just came in today. Okay.
This came in today, and,
Yeah.
but if you look up there, it cannot start until October first
Okay.
roughly, because you just got getting over some kind of personal injury.
Probably from here.
So we have to wait.
That's what he
least
did
2
a
more
long time.
months, But we have to keep looking.
Okay.
There was another applicant we got probably a month ago that had a CDL and he's a corrections officer right now.
Poor guy.
No,
I pity him. I pity the guy.
he's not a correction officer.
No,
He
he's-
works at a
I'll tell you
correction
right now,
facility.
let-
Oh, okay, that could be.
Let
It's
Gene go
Brian
for his
Frisk,
list.
and I'm bringing him in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hopefully get him on board. And I will work with Gene until he can find a driver. Do we have to interview him or does Ron?
Ron's been
do-
doing.
I
really well,
already-
Been doing
I
great
already-
service, helping,
helping us out.
I already interviewed him.
and we thank you very much, Ron. At least I do. I think the rest of the board would do. By putting a man down there helping us out. Thank you.
So I did interview him and everything, and he lives in town right down on Easter Drive.
Who was that?
He's a little younger than me, Brian Fisk. He's young, he's a little younger and everything, 30s.
Work for the state.
He works at the facility at Washington County.
Okay, Washington.
I believe. He does landscaping and all that. He does
Washington
their
correction.
stuff.
Washington correction.
Correctional.
Okay. So he's a state, correct?
He does have his class A. He doesn't have very much experience on our style trucks with the split shift and all that, so we will have to work with him on that. But
Yeah, but you're not getting new trucks.
no. So that's where that applicant is.
Nice.
All right,
Nice
the rest
work.
of them,
Fine
the
to
rest
have
of them we have here, if you got a minute, I did call all of these. There's a question mark on this one here. I can't mention the name, but he didn't put much down. He doesn't have a CDL. He's just looking for a job. Right now, that's not what we're looking for, okay? The other gentleman here, Herbert, I'll just give a first name. I've called him 3 times. I wrote it down at the bottom, has not returned my call. Christopher, that one came from Ron. He's not interested. He's already got a job. And there's one more on here. Only reason I called a gentleman because he came in for an interview, but it has nothing to do with a CDL or anything. But if you read, which I don't know if we all read the back of it, he's knowledgeable a lot in computers and so maybe we can get him in here part-time to work with Karen and get things a little bit going. But he's already found a job. I got a note here. He wants me to give him till the middle of February. He'll call me back. So, February. What did I say?
You said February.
Oh.
No, it was supposed to be September. Yeah, September.
That's what
I'm
you told me
sorry.
earlier.
I'm sorry. September. It looks like February, but it's September.
So he wants to talk in
He-
September.
He's got a job now and I think he just wants to see how it is before he'll fall back. So those are all the ones that I had. Well, and I just don't know why the one gentleman doesn't return a call, at least say, that's why I asked, at least say, no, I got a job or decide to do something else, but they don't. So I'm not gonna call him again.
I don't want to put words in you guys' mouth, but in the past, we've been more than willing to set up a special meeting if you get,
Somebody,
Yeah,
one person.
yeah. I kind of think we missed the deputy CEO because we dragged our feet so long. I don't know if Karen would agree with that, but
Well, I know that was one of the reasons that he gave me on the phone as to why he had trouble with
Yeah.
daycare was because it had taken so long.
you
He
somebody
didn't
wasn't
think
gonna
he
get.
had gotten the job and he had informed his daycare person that he didn't need her
Next
anymore.
Monday night?
I don't know if we got any to interview, but
There's one
I-
more.
No, you got two.
you got
No.
people for us to interview?
Yeah, we just got the one that came in today. What's the other one?
There's Brian Frisk.
That's the one I was
That's,
talking
he's
about.
got, he's.
Right.
He's got
Coming
them.
on with us.
All right,
You,
Tim, well, wait for Tim. Anything else? Tim?
No, I have nothing at this time.
I got a few things, Dean, if
Oh,
you
you
want me to go before you.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I didn't go yet.
All I need is a resolution to spend over my 1,500. I'm looking to get plow blades for the winter before they're unavailable or the shipping, we have issues. So I'm trying to be proactive.
How much?
I don't have a price because of the new pricing and they're coming from Canada. So
Are these
last
the
I knew,
live
each
blades?
plow was roughly 2,500. But if I can get a bunch, they're the single blades in these new plows that I can just switch out. I just want a bunch on hand, so if you can just make it 5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think you can give a resolution to amend the
Procurement policy.
right without actually going through and changing the procurement policy, but you can.
It's also a sole source too, so I don't have to worry about other prices or quotes or anything.
Right, but I guess they can't give you a resolution to go ahead and exceed what's provided for in the procurement policy when the time comes. So when you get to the point where you have the quote for the blades, then we can move forward on the quote. And if it's a sole source, we can explain why that's the only quote that you're going to get.
Can you have that quote before our next meeting?
Yes, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Then why don't we work on the resolution? We'll fill in the numbers.
Mhm.
We have to fill those numbers in that resolution a couple days.
Yeah.
Business days before the meeting.
There's other ways I can get around this, but I'm asking up front to get a bulk amount. So
Well, as you well know, I got a question for you, Ron.
that, and I got one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Our loader needs a radiator. It's got a very slow leak in it. I want to get it now to get it coming, and that's 2,200. I have the quote over at the garage. I will get it to Mike.
Gotta be done.
That's a sole source too.
Yeah.
Is that anything part of your budget for repairs?
Oh, I got the money and everything.
That's what I mean.
I'm over my 1,500, so I gotta come and beg for permission.
So
Beg your
Mike,
permission.
Mike Kroll will need a
But
resolution on that too,
your permission again.
and we'll fill.
How
in
much
the
did you spend or what was the total
Yeah,
savings?
it's
last
gonna
year
be
that you bought in regards to salt,
a resolution
versus,
for procurement of services, just
um,
like anything
It's
else.
two conversations.
the other, what do you call it? How much you
Live
spent for salt versus,
Versus the previous years.
just how much you spent? What do you figure the savings were? We're getting budgets together, aren't we?
Yeah. I
You save
have,
50%, you save 10% by going from salt over to.
well,
Depends on what you're.
Brine?
The brine.
Because it's not just solely salt, it's the aftermath of cleaning everything up. Then the fuel costs and the labor costs of that, and it's also brine.
But his material figure is a material figure. It is not a figure including labor and everything else.
We also went from one truck to every single truck having salt. So
and it also depends on the winter. You can't really.
this.
I
Well,
can give
you're-
you what I got left over, but the previous year I filled my salt shed and then that's what we used. And
Well, that's what
Have
I'm
you-
saying. Not last year, the year before you spent X amount of dollars for salt, right? You bought, I don't know, 70,000 ton or whatever. Last year you bought how much? And you were able to take care of the road?
I went from 1,200 the year before to 800.
Okay, so you're saying you saved 4,000?
Yes, no.
Okay, in
400,
salt,
400 ton,
in salt.
yes.
Okay.
I
And how
got,
much
I
brine
got
did you
30,000 left over.
And how much
last
money
year.
did you spend in brine?
That's included.
That's mixed in with the brine. I have a,
The salt that we use makes the brine that we put in, so any salt figure that we give you, it can include the salt that's used to make the brine.
Now that, the live edges and the salt. And the live edges for the plows and the salt brine, what,
it's a,
consideration for pavement damage, does that do? Is it? Are we losing there too?
you can't really look at pavement damage. Because these roads were bad before winter. Our good roads, these new plows, they are great. And with the salt that we're putting down now, we did excellent this last winter.
Are you noticing any pavement getting peeled up from the live edges?
You'll get our coal patch pluck out a little bit here and there. You will get it. But the price that these plows, the payoff is just extreme.
So the year before, we spent 1,200 tons of salt. The old conventional way with one truck running salt, every other truck running mix. Last year, 800 ton, every single truck running salt. With making salt brine included in that figure. Do you understand how that all?
I see where you're coming from, but last year when we all decided to put the brine and go for the expense of the brine situation, okay, the tanks, all the equipment and everything, we discussed about what was spent in brine alone. And I take it that figure, we have no idea what it is.
We can figure it out.
It's just some figure I don't have with me right tonight.
No, I'm just saying, can
You
you
know.
get a figure?
That's not what you asked for in the beginning.
I asked you how much you saved. Or what you spent on brine versus salt. I want,
It takes about one backhoe bucket of salt to make 1,000 gallons.
And we made what, 18,000? 18, we made 18,000 gallons last year.
So it's 18 backhoe buckets, which is about 18 yards.
How much salt were you going through when we were just salting the roads? Did you figure you were going through, how many ton of that, how many yards of that a year, before you went through this whole program?
That's what my truck,
I don't have it off the top of my head.
a couple of years ago, when we were plowing, my truck would go through one load of salt per run. with the new, with using brine, the new plow. And calibrating and everything, I'm getting 6 to 7 runs per load of salt.
After we calibrated all these trucks and everything, we're using about a back of bucket each truck, each round. And our savings really is at the end of the year when we don't have to spend 6 weeks of sweeping these roads.
Not disagreeing with you, Ron.
It was excellent not have to go around all these roads.
And our salt consumption is not necessarily gonna go down because before you.
And I'm just curious, guys, if we're not working towards a resolution here, then it's probably a conversation for
Yes.
either a regular town
You are
board meeting
correct.
or a special.
Yes, you're correct.
I'm glad you said that, Mike. I was thinking the same thing. We're putting Ron on the hot seat here to recite numbers that he's not even prepared for. That's not fair. It really isn't, guys.
Yeah, you're right. Anyways, so I need plow blades and a radiator. There. Yeah.
Not my fault.
What?
My next.
I told him.
I think he's done.
Are you done?
Logan thinks that there's a resolution for new guys that you guys have to approve it. I don't know, but tomorrow I will have an email of the application that the guy I want to hire. I'll have it to you and the next meeting you can yes or no.
Did you guys pass a resolution last year that all hiring and fires gotta go be approved by the town board?
I don't think that included Ron.
Including highway department.
I didn't think so either, because it's right in my highway superintendent's book that I do the hiring and firing.
That's why I brought it up about 20 minutes ago.
So.
Yeah, I just don't wanna go along with any other.
Yeah,
That's why I
we
brought
want
it
to
up
do
while
it
it was
the
special
right
meeting.
way.
I think that resolution was for the whole board,
For what employees?
for anybody other than highway. I believe.
Well, we'll check into it, but that's all I got. So.
Okay.
You're up.
You're up. An announcement Thursday night. And Chris, you know about Thursday night, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
The town advisory committee is having a public meeting about their progress and the master plan and how that's coming. I would encourage people to attend that 7 o'clock here on Thursday.
7 o'clock.
Trucks for buildings and grounds. You want me to
Go ahead.
I made a couple calls today just to try to hear things for myself. I went to the Ford dealer in Warrensburg and I spoke to Wakeman Chevrolet. Kind of got the same scenario from both of them. Ford right now is not quoting anything until October 1st when they get their new stuff, new prices from Ford. So if we put out an RFP right now, we're not going to get a price until October 1st.
Mike, is there any way that we can buy used without going out for referendum and everything?
You can buy used, but you have to go through the same procurement policy, so.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, well, that's my right to bid out a used truck. It's tough. Brand new one, you can get A, B, C, D, and E.
Can we put this under emergency situation instead?
No,
No.
not unless there's an emergency situation where the truck is down and it's
We've lost a truck, that's the problem.
okay, it's an urgent, in the emergent situation. Replacing a vehicle usually isn't gonna fall within an emergency.
No, believe it or not, some of the workers in our town are using their personal vehicles right now. I'd almost consider this an emergency.
What's the first state minimum threshold? Is it 30,000 or 10,000 or something?
30,000.
First threshold for what?
What you can purchase and not violate state law. I
No,
think it's 10, but I'm not sure.
It's
No,
10, 20, and 30.
I have to take a look at the general municipal law figures, but I think it's actually lower than that for what you can do without any quotes. And then it is up, and it's not drastically different than what's in your procurement policy, if I'm recalling the numbers correctly, but
I think we're all in agreement that we need to revise that policy. Could you put those state rules
sure.
together and let us know what they are?
Yeah.
So anyways, back to trucks,
I think the state rules 40,000.
is it?
Well, let him look it up.
Yeah, well, one of the state rules, you gotta get 3 quotes, one for the higher one, you gotta put it out to bid.
Right.
If I read that a long time ago, so don't quote.
No, it's the, what you have in your policy is almost mirroring what's in the state policy.
Except
Your
our
numbers
low
are-
end, our low end is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but again, I don't know, when you established that policy, that was probably threshold. And then yours has changed over time and the state's has changed over time. And so right now, I'm not sure which one is higher.
I was only 1,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,500. You could buy a couple of toilets for that about.
Yeah.
You
So-
can't buy a truck for 1,500.
The whole problem, trying to buy a new truck right now, Jim, is almost out of the question, because you're talking anywhere from 6 to 8 months, 10 months,
Yeah,
correct?
It's getting worse.
however, if we had gone out to buy a new one back when we first heard we needed trucks, we'd be getting it now.
That is true.
So I hate to keep kicking the can down the road, you know?
I'm not disagreeing.
The,
with
the other thing is price. What Whiteman told me was that the truck we're talking about, which you and I, went over before, it's a Chevy work truck, 1/4 ton basic truck, is gonna be around 40 grand.
Mhm.
If you buy it off a lot, you're probably gonna pay 60 for it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But it's gonna take 8 to 10 months to get it.
10 months to get it.
Now Chevy is still quoting right now.
Ford's not even quote.
Right, Ford's not even gonna quote until October 1st. Chevy will quote us tomorrow if I ask. So I don't know what we wanna do. If we kick the can down the road, I think some of the buildings and grounds guys are gonna come down to my house and drag me out with tar and feather.
You tried that, mine. Thank God I live next to the lake.
I think. I don't see any harm in this. Would the board consider, let's go out to bid for a Chevy?
I got no problem at all.
I don't have a problem with that at all either.
Put it out.
Why not? I've got.
Something's got to change with the bidding process because like you said,
Yeah,
it's getting ridiculous.
and
The last time we put a bid out, we didn't even get a bid.
That's correct. That's.
So far, we haven't gotten anything on this last bid, but they have until September 12th at 4 o'clock.
did we limit ourselves to Fords on that?
Word that.
bid?
See, and that's the thing, you can't limit to just one specific manufacturer. You gotta have it available to, any potential similar manufacturer.
If I send a bid proposal right now to Ford in Warrensburg and Chevy in Glens Falls, we're not gonna get a bid from Ford in Warrensburg.
Right, and that's fine. You don't have to wait until Ford is able to quote, but you
Okay.
can't submit a
Okay.
quote that just says we're only looking for Chevys.
Right, my description is generic. It's 3/4 ton. It doesn't say F-250 or Chevy 2500. It's just
Right.
3/4 ton. So I'll keep it generic. Okay,
So
do we need some kind of formal resolution or anything for me to go ahead? Get
Yeah,
prices?
we'll need you're gonna get the specs.
Yes,
Yeah, no, that's fine. Once you have the specs, then we put that into a resolution.
okay, I'll get them, try to get you those tomorrow.
Okay.
You're gonna talk about the PM or no?
Ford's got a truck over there with plow, but it's quad cab. I don't know if that's something that,
If it's on the lot and it's brand new, they probably want 20 above.
I don't know if it's brand.
They probably want 20,000 above,
Yeah,
sticker price.
it probably, but we already went out to bid once and didn't get any bids. Can we just go get what we?
Do whatever you want. You're gonna get sued.
Right?
Yeah.
Even though that we already put it up in bid, no bids come back, doesn't that reflect anything? That we tried, we didn't get any bids.
Right, yeah, but you're saying then that you just go shopping?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
pick up something used.
Again, you can't just change the rules. You gotta keep following the rules.
As long as it's under 1,500, you're fine.
Right.
So you just gotta put it back out to bid again. Right.
Yep. Or change what you're looking for.
Yep, yep.
Um,
The hook.
Can you put out the bid without coming back and waiting?
you can get something as soon as you have a responsive
I'm
bid.
saying, if you put out the bid 5 times, you got no bids back, then what do? Just keep putting it out the bid?
You gotta change your bid. You gotta look for other alternatives. You can piggyback on somebody else who's got an awarded bid. But just because you put a bid out and you don't get anything back doesn't mean that you can tear up the procurement policy.
That's question answered.
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving along, a couple little things. I apologize for giving it to you today. But I'm just talking about it now, no decisions. We hope we can bring it up at the September 12th meeting. We got a response. We talked about a food truck. You have it all in front of you. I put it on your desk. I think you better just look at it and read it, and maybe I'll get one over to Mike, or if he stops in, he can get it here. It's not cheap, but I think it's something that they're putting out 7 weeks in the month of July and August next year. Butler Park. So we're gonna combine it with music and the food trucks. So the whole thing is here. This is all the whole proposal right here that I'll give you. I think I gave you one, huh? Yeah. So it's just somebody wants to do it. And it's up to us to say yes or no at our next meeting.
I think this kind of thing is a really good idea. I just want to go on record. I went to the one in Glen Swallows last week and had a great time.
This can also come out of the tourism bus or budget, correct?
I know.
More tourism, isn't it?
So Pam Pettis would like to be on the agenda.
Yeah, she's gonna talk about
To
this,
talk about all that at the next meeting.
and we'll find out that answer then. But they have to, they want to get it started now and get all the plans made, so we're not doing this in March or April.
She's gonna get some information together and get it to me tomorrow or Wednesday, probably Wednesday. And as soon as I get it, I'll get it out to everybody, so you have time to read through it.
This should be the same one then.
Yeah, but she's putting something else together.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll see what happens. The only other thing is, again, another problem. We're ready to make repairs on the dam. I got a name from the engineering company, and I called Di Bruno, and the gentleman came up last week and looked at our dam. And in front of you have what he's estimating to do it with time and material. I couldn't get anybody else. The engineering company didn't have another name. And I asked Di Bruno, I said, this is a stupid question, but can you give me a couple of more people that you compete with? And he did send me one more name. And I called it twice last week, had an answer machine both times and no response. And that's all I have, so I don't have 3 bids. But we're planning on doing this. Di Bruno wants to do this, lower the lake, October 1st. Get in there by October 15th and get out by the end of the month. Then we,
Yeah, need a copy of that.
I got a couple of them.
I've got one more thing.
Do you have a copy of that?
Yeah.
I saw, well, I don't have a copy here. Gee.
Of which one?
The Bruno quote for fixing the dam. I don't think-
Yes, I do.
You have that. Put one on there. You should have one
Put on,
copy.
put it on everybody's desk.
Copy of the desk. No.
Here's Mike.
Maybe underneath that.
It's time and material.
Yes, I know.
I think we-
Approximate, lead, amount of time is 32 hours. We'd be looking probably someplace with materials and everything cost about $10,000. That's for the, grout injection into the dam.
Mhm.
They get $375 an hour for 3 men.
Yeah, you have it right there.
We got the budget.
Yeah, Tom, you should have it. Put one
I
in.
don't have it.
Mike doesn't have one either. Plus it didn't have. to be
I've seen it, okay, yeah, you showed it to me earlier this week. But I don't have it here,
Okay, well, I should have. it.
Well, here we go again, Mike. We,
Here it is right here. I got a copy. You get a copy?
It wasn't in your packet. I put it up by your nameplates.
Is it in there?
No, I brought everything.
I should have another one.
what was your bottom line guess, Paul?
About 10,000. If you look at the budget that they have prepared. Sandbagging, yada, yada, yada. Crew rate, 3 men bagging and installation of bags, strip totally. Total leveling, $375 based on an 8-hour day. Minimum charge 4-hour day, 4 hours per day, additional hours of 4 hours carries to a full 8-hour day potential. Estimated of completion 32 hours, grouting and drilling. $270 based on an 8-hour day. Same thing, 4 hours estimated, 40 hours. The grout, they're 50-gallon buckets at $100 a bucket. Okay. Water plug and all that. Access to work areas. Sandbagging, of course, they want to do it probably in October, correct, Gene?
Yep.
When the water's low, so we can determine, get the water down low enough.
We're in the same pickle here as you are with a pickup truck. Right time to do this is when they can lower the water down
Well, they have to.
and. You know, the ballpark guesstimate's 10 grand. We really only got one price.
Yep, the other company never called back.
This is great.
What do you think?
Same thing, Mike?
No, it would be different. But what we would do is, Gene, I would just get the details from you of what you did to reach out to whoever else you reached out to,
Well,
the
that-
fact that no one,
I got the name and the telephone number right here.
and so the fact that you can't necessarily get a quote out of somebody doesn't mean that you can't move forward on the quotes or the quote that you do get. So if you're making an effort to get 3 quotes, and for the circumstances beyond your control, you're not able to get it, or somebody doesn't want to quote it. Doesn't mean you can't move forward on the ones that you do have.
No, that's good. I mean, and just like I said before, the company that wants to do it gave us the complete listing, gave me this other company's name. one of his competitors, so I don't think he was nice enough to do that, but I couldn't find anything else under this type of work. It's a specialty type of work, injecting cement into, you know,
They've been around a long time.
they've been around a while, and they were recommended from the engineering company first. So they use them.
I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm even more nervous about not doing the work.
If you
And
don't
what's the
get- if
state
you don't
gonna
get a
do to us?
contract going in the next by the 12th of September.
What's the state gonna do to us? if We don't go ahead and get this work done. They're gonna be all over us.
We've paid for the study. We found out what the study shows,
I mean,
you know, what the dam is in need of. Okay. And probably, I know it says it, the chances of it ever breaking loose are pretty much slim to nothing at this stage of the game.
no, this is just to get it fixed up.
Right,
and
but I'm
stop the
saying-
small leaking.
I'm just saying,
Dam is not
if we
gonna
don't do
collapse.
it and something happens, you know, you're in a catch-22, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
We know that dam isn't going anyplace. That isn't what I'm
Is
saying.
your thought that we should go ahead with these guys? That's my thought. Oh, I'm gonna.
That's my
say I'm not
thought.
Comfortable with one price, time and
We
material.
spent what, $40,000 in the studies that the state has required us to do?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like Attorney Crow said, there's nothing keeping us from doing it though. Because it's the only one we got back. Put them out there and this is the only one we have, so I don't feel uncomfortable about it. I
Mike,
feel-
you still there? Mike Fazio?
Yeah, I'm here.
what's your feeling on that, Mike?
I know we got to do something, but if Ron can't buy a truck, how do we spend all this money on the dam? I mean, can it come back on us, Attorney Crow, or no?
No, that's, that, I guess it's a different comparison.
Is it an emergency situation?
No,
No? Okay. Well, I'm going to follow your lead, but I'm not going to tell you my thoughts. If you're saying we can do it, then you're the lead dog in this one, as far as I'm concerned.
in terms of how you'd move forward with the fact that you're not able to get 3 quotes for this. Like I was telling Gene, is that we can lay out how he has reached out to try and get the number of quotes that are necessary and is not getting responses. That doesn't hold you back. When you're talking about, exceeding another threshold, beyond the 35,000 for the purchase of a vehicle, and you've got to go out and solicit bids, that's a different procurement scenario than what's in front of us.
I would say, in my opinion, I would do it.
There's 3 of us.
Oh,
Or 4 of us.
Get a resolution together or whatever.
I would ask he get a resolution, and we'll have 2 more weeks to see if the other guy calls. And have him see if he can send us something before the
Now
12th.
we're gonna be in November.
No,
Yeah.
no. No, that's up. I'm the 5th one. I think we all agree this time you have to do it. I don't think there's any governmental entity saying, we didn't try.
Hmm.
A truck is a different thing. They're out there. There's so many places you can go for trucks. This is, if we want to get it done and have that thing all fixed up and make the state happy, we got to do it. So would you prepare a resolution for that for us for next Tuesday? 2 Mondays from now?
Yep.
All right. And if there's any other thoughts in between, let's talk about it. All right. And the last thing I got here, and I gave all you as one of these
Oh, yeah.
copies. This is the new copies for the bids from the county. And they're constantly going up. The only thing that's staying the same in this as last year is 60,000 a ton, and that's for prospect, for our garbage. Tires, there's a bid in here for $15 each for a car and $20 each for truck. Right now, we're paying 17 and 22. So, but I think you might have to stay with this bit because it's one column. It's waste management. The other one is Ace hauling. But they were $82 a ton for garbage compared to the $60 a ton.
Which place is ruining our tires?
Huh?
It's one of these
Yeah.
ruins our tires,
Well, where we going now?
which is which one?
Went up $100.
County waste?
No, that's the companies that haul. We go to the river.
Oh, that's not
No,
relevant.
that's not relevant.
Stupid question.
All right, on the second page, you'll see the word State Lake Luzerne.
Down at the bottom.
The bids all came out. This is just hauling, gentlemen, hauling out of our transfer station. Okay, for a garbage haul out of there in 2022, it was $689.30 a trip. 2023, it's $831 a trip. You go right across the top, it tells you C&D, newspaper, magazines, whatever we get out of there, all taking them out of there is costly.
Couple months ago, we talked about somebody thought we should be getting paid for the cardboard instead of having
Well,
paid to haul it out. So
actually, that's the cheapest one. They take it out of there. They bring us the trailer that they take it out of there. It's $170 a trip. We don't get anything now for it. But this is a county bid. We don't have to go with it, but most likely we will. But I look at it this way, this is just me, I think different than most people. If you're gonna pay $831 a trip, and you make 10 trips a month, figure out how much that is. You could probably bond the truck and buy our own.
We still got the old truck down there, haven't we?
It's too small.
Is it?
Yep, well, that's what the plan was to take that truck and have it pre-fitted with the equipment to pull these containers out, but it's too short by about 5 feet.
Yep,
Is the weight,
yeah.
the weight of the truck and everything substantial?
I think it is. It was just too short to have that,
That can be modified damn easy.
Huh?
Put a 5-foot extension on that truck. They split frames all the time. Maybe it's something we ought to look into.
Is this,
This way-
are these numbers haul and
This is
disposal
just
or
hauling.
just
no,
haul?
just hauling.
Just hauling it.
When they haul it and dump it, we get charged $60 a ton garbage.
You bring down another truck and everything, then you're gonna bring out another driver. We can't even find a good driver for the garbage truck.
Well, we're looking for a part-time driver. Right, Ron?
I don't know if I'd bring in another truck where you need another CDL driver. It's something to think about.
That's my answer. That's my thing. That's all I have. You guys decide what you want to do.
So are you looking to,
Hey.
to choose or to award a bid? based
We
on
have
this?
to do that for the county if we want to go with the county bid.
Lori, can you do me a favor, please?
So do you want a resolution, I guess? is what I'm saying?
Can you have Colleen pull the
Only give it
figures
to me, whatever they
in
want.
regards to the amount of trips,
But then I'm not gonna prepare anything unless.
say, that we've made so far this year? In regards to what has been quoted for this coming year? In regards to waste, C&D, newspapers and all that? What we've expended. Dean, I'd also like to have one other thing brought up.
Go ahead.
Could it be possible that our Chamber of Commerce could come in and explain what they got planned and what they've done so far this season? We've expenditure, gave them some money to put on some things and I see the last,
Tim's president, so I'll ask. him.
I see the last
Yeah,
concert. How come that was canceled? He just said canceled.
He wound up in the hospital.
He did? Okay. Okay.
She's coming next time anyways, right?
Yeah, it's coming in 2 weeks.
To talk.
I'll see if she'll have that information.
Yeah, pass along to her the.
Well, I'm just wondering, in years past, we had a concert every week. We've had what, 3 this year, maybe?
Three was all.
That's it.
Oh, that would have been the fourth one.
That would have been the fourth one, where from basically the
Well,
first,
the last 2 years we cut back because of the COVID, not because.
I know that, but I'm saying in the years past, the money was there, we've given them money again, to,
I don't
Promote
think- I
it.
don't think they got enough money.
well, maybe.
Plus those concerts are starting to really cost.
How
We have
many,
to give them more money from our tax.
how many members are in the Chamber of Commerce?
I don't know. You gotta ask that question. I don't get involved.
Well, maybe you can have him come in.
Yeah, 2
Give
weeks.
us some information.
All right, that's all I got.
I have
Uh-oh.
Annie McMahon from the Board of Ethics called, and we're gonna be having a meeting shortly, so if there's any complaints, she'd like those submitted. And also, we need a resolution at the next board meeting to appoint a town board member to that committee. There's supposed to be a town board member. The last one that was a member of that committee was Mr. Cirillo when he was here. So we need to appoint someone to the Board of Ethics.
How often do they meet, Lori?
I want to say a couple of times a year.
I'll volunteer to do it. I missed a lot of meetings this year due to other obligations that I apologize for, so that's the least I could do to try and make it up. If you guys want me on there, I'll do it.
Okay, so we'll have to do a resolution at the next meeting to who you want to do that. Thank you, Mike.
All right, anything else?
Um,
Karen, you have any?
I don't believe I have anything.
I'll call for a motion.
Hold
Can
on,
I go, Gene?
You got people on TV.
What's that?
Mike Bevio wants to go.
Go, oh, speak. I'm sorry, Mike.
That's
Go
all right. I feel you. First off, I wanted to say thank you for everybody's patience for allowing me to successfully complete the EMT course, guys. I did passed it, and I'm officially will be an EMT as soon as I get my paperwork. So I appreciate everybody, working with me on that. And sorry for any inconvenience I caused. Tonight I'm sick. I took a COVID test, or I would gladly be there, but I just don't want to take a chance on getting anybody sick. But Lori, I wanted to ask you, at our last meeting, Gene sent, or on August 3rd, Gene, you sent out an email about the EMS looking to increase their rates. Did that get passed at our August 8th meeting?
I would have to look, but I think it
Yeah,
did.
it did. We
Okay.
passed.
Scott still hasn't gotten a copy of the resolution, so he can implement those rates. He got Hadley's, but he hasn't got ours. So he can't do anything until he gets a copy of that resolution, please.
Well, he could have called here. We could have got him right away.
Okay.
I don't know.
He could have called Lori for it right away.
Well, nope, whatever. Hadley sent theirs. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just asking if he can get a copy of it. How he could have done it doesn't really matter at this point, but he doesn't have it.
Not know I was supposed to send that to him. So. I think it happened.
I'm not blaming anybody, guys. Oh my God, I'm done. Thank you.
Hope you feel better tomorrow, Mike.
All right, what do you got? I'm sorry, who? All right, Barbara, is anything that pertaining to what we discussed tonight?
Hi, good evening. There is. I was hoping to clarify one comment that Mr. Lewandowski made about short-term rentals. There was a law in 2018 that the county passed that they changed the definition of hotel and motel to include short-term rental. Is that what he was referring to with
Yes.
Lake Luzerne? Okay, just simply changing the definition of hotel and motel in the zoning ordinance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in
we
the
did,
zoning
the
ordinance.
county,
It was
the
in a
county.
county local law that they had
For tax
Right.
purposes.
for tax.
Right, for the occupancy tax, but
Right.
was Mr. Lewandowski suggesting that the town change our definition of hotel and motel to include short-term rentals?
The
As,
Cape County one.
right, And then we'd be more mirroring what the county is doing. And people paying the occupancy tax would be kind of all falling in line, local and county.
That would be a good
Is this the
discussion
meeting
to
for
have on
this?
Thursday night.
Yeah, this isn't the meeting for this, guys. I know that.
I just mentioned it for clarification because Mr. Lewandowski had mentioned it and I wanted to hone in on what he was trying to say. To clarify that, that's it.
Thank you, Barb.
Karen? Anything else?
I have nothing.
All right. You get a motion to
Make a
adjourn?
motion.
You get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I adjourn.
Oh, make a motion to adjourn
Oh,
going-
wait a minute.
No,
wait a
you're
minute,
not,
wait a
you're
minute.
not going into executive session.
You know,
No, it's just
Oh.
attorney-client